job to go in the wall, a hurl, a stick in a shinty bowl, the brick, the brack, the crack, and all. Let's call it an Irish pub. Caffrey's on, Kilkenny, a pub, the Guinness, pint, a cabbage, crap, the I don't want to be paddy trap. We'll call it an Irish pub. While I'll be fucked to swear.
Welcome to episode 1 of the Pubcast. My name is Brendan O'Neill, and I would normally be joined by Mike Cross and Michelle Riley. But in these first few episodes, we are revisiting our previous podcast, Boardwalk Breakdown. Basically, we're shutting down the Boardwalk Breakdown podcast and moving those 13 episodes over here so we can keep them alive and well in our archives. So, the Pubcast is our new podcast where we'll talk about all kinds of stuff and not be limited to only talking about Boardwalk Empire. And it will actually begin on episode 14. So just consider these first 13 episodes as bonus content. Sláinte. Welcome to the Boardwalk Breakdown podcast featuring Michelle Riley, Mike Cross, and me, Brendan O'Neill. If you have any comments or questions, you can contact us on Twitter at Boardwalk Break. Enjoy the show. All right, here we go.
All right.
Episode 6, The Devil You Know. This is our first two-man podcast.
Well, it's your first two-man podcast.
First two-person podcast. We've had 3 minimum every time.
What about the night I wasn't here?
Allison
filled in. That's
right.
Right.
So that was 1 man, 2 women. That's a different story, though.
Totally different.
So that's, all right, just us two, me and Mike. We are without Michelle Riley for the moment. She'll be back next week. And we believe, if everything goes well, we will be joined by 2 cast members of the show. And that is the young Commodore, played by John Ellison Conley, and Daughter Maitland, played by Margot Bingham. So that'll be our first special guest.
Real guest.
Real guest. Extra special guest. All right, back to the show. The Devil You Know. We open... Again, I think this is a new hallmark of the series. We opened exactly where the previous episode...
Yes. Notice that right off the gate that we're picking up in sequence. Again, so it's 3 weeks in a row, right?
Yeah, I mean, they throw in a couple here and there where it's just we start with flashbacks. But once we're in real time, we're always like right back where the last one started. Right. So we've got Chalky at Narcisse's whorehouse. And that's when he finds the girl on the couch... And he sees Daughter Maitland back from the dead, supposedly. Or at least he thought she may have been dead. And he sees Daughter. And the first thought I had, or anyone had, was that, oh, the kid is Chalky's. Obviously.
Right.
And effectively, they confirmed that. Chalky says, or Daughter says to Chalky, she's not his. She's not Narcisse's. And Chalky's like, well, then who? And she's like, she's all mine.
She's all mine. I love that line.
Meaning, she's mine, but
she's mine, but she's yours.
Yeah.
But what I loved about it was her taking responsibility at a higher level than anything Chalky could have given at the time that she would have been born.
And she doesn't want Chalky's involvement.
Yeah, and she doesn't want it, doesn't need it. It's good stuff.
Kind of progressive for that time, I would think. I mean, I don't know if that's accurate or not, but given Chalky's background, probably right.
Probably pseudo accurate. I mean, I think on the fringe in in that period of time, there might have been a little bit more of that than you'd see in 2014. But
I wonder.
I don't think it was common. It certainly wasn't common.
No.
I love the resolve of Daughter in this episode, and I love the fact that she is a completely broke horse.
Yeah.
Who is just scratching and crawling, cleaning toilets in Memphis.
Beaten. Right.
She's just mentally drained. She's got this angelic voice, and she can't be heard because Narcisse is keeping her down. It's very interesting.
Through all of this, I mean, she's back, and one of the things, I mean, they're sort of locked away from Narcisse's guys, and they say Narcisse is on his way, basically. The doctor's on his way. They're locked in this room.
The Libyans.
And she's... the Libyans. She said to Chalky, get out while you can. Walk away. It's time to get out and escape this hell that you just walked into because Narcisse is the real deal. But she's effectively protecting Chalky and protecting the father of her daughter. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. When did you know that he was dead, though?
That who was dead?
Chalky. Not to get too far ahead, but... I knew he was dead right away.
Yeah, I think so.
Away.
I think he knew he was dead, too.
Well, when
he didn't see from his face.
When he didn't take the shot at Narcisse right away, I knew that was it, right?
He was... From the get-go, as soon as he walked in and didn't shoot him, you knew he was bargaining for a daughter to escape.
Yeah, he was not bargaining for his own life. He was bargaining for something bigger.
Right.
And I think that's why Althea, the daughter, was so poignantly played.
Yep.
Very, very much in the background, sleeping on the couch.
Yep.
Just kind of lingering in the background, but it was so dramatically at the forefront of what was going on. It was... Well, I will say about this episode, and this is jumping kind of like a little bit ahead to a postscript on everything. It was pretty prescriptive, but it was still very powerful in my opinion. I mean, this whole episode was very prescriptive, and it kind of lends itself to what I've been saying all along: is that we're going to get everything wrapped in a nice little bow. And they're continuing that progress.
It's good. It's almost too fast, but it's good.
I get why they're doing it, and I understand the motivation behind it. It's a little disappointing that we're not getting a little bit more plot development.
Yeah.
We're getting very quick, short. Here's the end.
Yeah. And a lot of these plot points we know have to get wrapped up in this way. We knew this was going to happen effectively. And
we weren't sure about Chalky. There was rumbling last week that maybe Chalky and Nucky ride off into the sunset.
Yeah,
I never really bought into that. I hoped for it. Chalky was probably the one character in the entire show who was, that criminal with a conscience, right? He was the one who always did the right thing in a criminal way.
Well, that's what you were saying last time, is that the two people maybe with the best moral compass are Chalky and, we said at the time, Richard Harrow.
Right.
Chalky may be upping his game in that area right now.
With this episode, he certainly ratchets it up a couple of notches.
Yeah. And so, to back up a little bit before the finale...
Sorry to jump way
That's
ahead.
fine. You know I have to go in sequential order because I'm anal like that.
Yes.
So he said, or daughter says, obviously you didn't come for me. And Chalky's talking about, I think it's a nice little throwaway line. He goes, but you're the honeypot.
Yeah.
Sort of, you're the one that everyone's after, Narcisse, basically. You're the bait. I had to go find you to find him.
Totally.
He went to go find Narcisse and found her, but...
It was all, yeah. I mean, she could have been carefully placed by Narcisse in that situation, knowing that Chalky was on the loose.
And I thought, you mentioned it already, but that daughter works for a white man in Memphis cleaning toilets.
Yes.
That's like how far she's fallen. She's this potentially huge star in the clubs and in all.
She's the Ella Fitzgerald,
right?
Right. She's got the golden voice. She's got the talent. She's got the looks.
And once Chalky hears that, he's like, "No, you can't be doing that. You're above that. We got to get you out of here." And that's when he
makes his decision. In effect,
makes his deal with the devil.
He was going to blow his way out of there, or he was going to walk away and take the bullet.
Yeah. Talking about the little kid.
Althea.
She's almost, and I wonder if it's like this on purpose. She's in the background. She's small. She's asleep. She's sort of not really there. She's almost like a ghost.
I love that.
A ghost of Chalky's past.
I love the way they played that.
Yeah.
It really was, because it kind of harkens back to the old set Chalky, the 1922 Chalky, where his daughter was around, and he was doting and he was worried about who she was going to marry. Yeah. And you could kind of see that. There's a direct correlation, in my opinion, there that it really added a lot of depth to what could have been a throwaway scene or a throwaway segment that really just ended with the way it ended without a lot of texture to it. And it really did add a lot of
Narcisse
texture.
Points it out. He talks about are we really going to do this with an innocent in the room? You know, I mean, I don't think you want what you're trying to do. We got to put your gun down. It's not going to happen.
Right.
You've got too much of a conscience for that. And then we see daughter Maitland bring out the record, and they play the record, and we hear the voice, and it's amazing, of course. Played by our new friend Margot Bingham.
Right.
So then we see that, and then we find out, unsurprisingly, that Narcisse controls her. She can't get booked in any club in the country.
Anywhere
basically.
in the world.
Yeah,
right.
because he can make a call and it's over.
Right.
So she's cleaning toilets. But then with all this power, Narcisse comes back and talks to Chalky like, I met with this guy Luciano, Lucky Luciano, Mr. Luciano.
Mr. Luciano.
I've been allowed to do my work in my own home. You know, I'm under his thumb, basically. And then he makes a deal with Chalky. You join me, help me take down Luciano and fight these guys, and I'll do you a favor. And it sort of becomes evident. I'll release daughter. And make a call and let her get back into the scene. That's all Chalky needs, and he's in. Yeah,
but Chalky knew even at that point
right.
that this was all just a ruse to keep daughter comfortable with the situation.
Exactly.
As comfortable as someone could get with that, right?
Exactly.
This was all, and Chalky knew all along it was a ruse.
Yep.
And I knew it was a ruse.
Yep.
And it was just a pantomime. It was a total show to appease daughter, get her and Althea out of there, maybe get her on the road to success. Mm-hmm. And Chalky's got to pay for that with his life.
And they walk outside, and Chalky first addresses Narcisse, saying, I'm going to keep mine in the bargain. Will you please keep yours? And Narcisse's like, yeah, well, how will you know? It's like, well, I won't. Like, well, then consider it done.
Yeah. Right.
Bullshit.
And just imagine that it will be done.
And then the guys walk in, or walk in the alley. Narcisse walks out, and they mow him down. 1920s gangster style, too.
Yeah.
5 across.
Tommy guns, 5 across, take them down, right. It was...
That's our... Well, it's not our first in the episode, but in our episode, that's our first quality kill.
Look, let's just call it the quality kill of the night, because, I mean, it really, to me, I don't think... I mean, the Nelson
right.
Lane, which we'll get to, There was a lot of drama to that.
Quality kill because of it was a more meaningful kill.
It was definitely a more meaningful one, and it definitely had teeth, and it cemented Chalky as that character on this show that was the one person who really never wavered from his principles.
That said,
I'm not going to say morals. I'll say principles.
Right. I mean, no one has true
honor
morals.
among thieves, right?
Seeing him go is hard. I knew he was going.
I knew he was going.
But
15 minutes into the episode, I knew he was gone. But it was still tough because I was really hoping for some resolution with Chalky and Nucky.
Yeah.
And I was hoping for a positive outcome for Chalky. But maybe the positive outcome for Chalky, and this is the way I'm going to try and play it out in my brain unless they play it out on the show, is that... daughter goes on and becomes successful, and Althea grows up, and she gets to be a normal human being, right? As opposed to living in this gangster lifestyle with all these thugs and not necessarily well-mannered people, despite Dr. Narcisse's well-to-do status.
So that's my question, and I'll get to my question about daughter in just a minute. For now, I'm going to break... And we'll go into our interview, or my interview, one-on-one with Margot Bingham about her character and how that resolved itself in this past week's episode.
Looking forward to hearing this.
Welcome to the Boardwalk Breakdown podcast.
Thank you.
We are glad to have our first guest from the show. This is Margot Bingham, who plays daughter Maitland. And... you played a very important role in this past week's episode.
Yes. I did, and it's been quite a ride ever since, and it's been a hard week to kind of get over. I know that a lot of people are still mourning, but trust me, so am I.
I'm sure. Now, at the beginning, back to last season. How did you get the part? Was it just like a standard audition? What was that whole process like?
It was a standard audition. Originally, they were looking for a background singer for a jazz singer in the club, possibly like a couple day shoot, working in the new nightclub that Chalky White was going to be under ownership of. And it turned into that, and it was just a normal jazz audition. I went in and sang, actually, St. Louis Blues, the song that I performed the first time in the flower dress with the big crowd, and that was my audition song. And I sang a couple verses of that, and then they gave me a couple lines to read, and then it just kind of kept asking me to hold more and more week after week, and it turned into 9 episodes later for the season.
Wow, so it wasn't really a cut and dried part. It sort of developed out of your involvement with the show.
I guess so. I think that they just saw what relationship was forming with Michael and I, and that there was something there, and it was working, and they just gave me a chance. They trusted me.
Now, were you a fan of the show before you had auditioned?
I was. My brother actually introduced me to it. He was a huge fan of the show.
Yeah.
And he introduced me to the show, and I watched a couple episodes, and then when I got called in for it, he made me sit down and watch every single episode with him. And he was so excited, and he literally gave me an ultimatum of saying I either get the part or I'm completely disowned from our family. So that was my choices. So good thing I got it.
Exactly. And I'm sure you're relatively busy now. You know, do you have time? Do you have an opportunity to watch each episode each week now?
I do, and luckily I do, because we don't get the full scripts for the episodes, so we only get our own involvement. So I don't know what else is going on with the other characters. So week to week, as the viewers watch, it's new to me as well. So it's kind of exciting for me to just continue to watch how it all pans out.
That's what we were thinking, is that you guys only know your bit of the story. You don't know all the other,
right. And we really only do know ever so much. And it's funny because a lot of people ask me, what's going to happen to Julian, or what's going to happen to Nucky, or, and I honestly, I have no idea. I really have no clue.
Oh, that's great. Now you get to work, obviously, last season and this season, closely with Narcisse and Chalky, Jeffrey Wright and Michael K. Williams. What was that like? Because, I think many people would consider them at the top of the list of, best actors either on TV or in film these days. What was it like to be with those, that high level of talents?
It was kind of incredible. I'm a huge fan of both of them, and I've been a fan of both of them for a while, and especially Jeffrey Wright, growing up and watching all of his movies between Basquiat and MLK and, people, he is an iconic figure in the acting community, and to be associated in any way with him, and also to be able to call him a friend of mine now, it's kind of unbelievable. It's unreal. And from moment one that I was on set with them, they were so gracious and had no ego in the world and took me in completely. And it's really been it's been a cast that I've been more than spoiled with.
I'm sure.
Because of the people that are associated with it, the class and caliber of people alone, but then their non-ego kind of mentality of the acting world. It's been a pleasure to just work with each and every single one of them.
Oh, yeah.
It's really unreal.
Those two guys play, some of the more intense characters on the show. Did they carry that into the off-screen interactions? I know it's probably
not
difficult.
At all.
No? Okay.
No, not at all. No, they're two of the sweetest guys I've ever met. Michael is one of the most kind human beings I've had the pleasure of meeting, and Jeffrey, he's intense, but he's very, very smart, and he's very talented, and I'll let the siren go.
Yeah. That's all right. Well,
gotta love New York.
Exactly. I understand.
but they were both very, very sweet and very kind, and did not take that kind of strong demeanor off camera.
Sure.
On the least.
Well, now, when you first approached the character of Daughter, how did you come at it as an actress? I mean, I'm sure it was different when you came at it at the beginning, and there's an evolution between how you came at it this season. How did she evolve, and how did you evolve playing the part?
I think that she continued, especially the role. I mean, I think that Daughter continued to evolve through the rest of the season because she was being written in as the season was progressing, so that wasn't something that was done beforehand. I think one of the things that helped me the best as an actress, especially for Daughter, was that her music really scored the role and the arc of her character. You know, as the music started, she was a little bit more reserved, and she was playing to more of a reserved crowd, and she was playing more of the singer and more of the performer. And as the season progressed, she became a bit more of herself, and she came into her own, and she wasn't afraid to be a risk taker and to also be a little bit more risque. And then as she started falling for Chalky, she started singing a different kind of blues, and it's really kind of beautiful how they set the tone of the season to the music that she was able to sing throughout each episode. And I think that it was, when you really listen to the music, it makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. Okay. Now this season, your appearance in the last two episodes, obviously, we talked about this on our previous podcast. Obviously, Chalky loves Daughter, but does Daughter love Chalky, or is it sort of a different kind of a relationship?
No, she really did love Chalky. I mean, that the one love that she's ever truly known, the one true love, at least that was obvious in her life, was it was given to her by a man that killed her own blood and took her own blood away.
Right.
When he killed her mother. So that was the only love that she ever knew, and she had to constantly fight for it. And it's really a very twisted Stockholm-like relationship. And then when she met Chalky and he was into her life, she didn't actually have to fight for his love. It was these two lost souls that just came together magnetically, and it was something that she didn't really have to. She didn't have to give so much of herself for. It was enough just being her, and it was a love that she's never known. So she truly did love him. But when she has a daughter now, and that other element has kind of come into the picture, it's something bigger than just herself now. It's for the first time she could be. She's not able to be so selfless and selfish. She could be. Yeah. She has to be a little bit more selfless, and she has to concentrate on something bigger and beyond herself. So I think that even though she does love Chalky, and she would never ever want that to be the outcome of him sacrificing himself for her better health or her safety, her main focus right now is on something bigger. So, it's putting people before their own, and that's what Chalky did, and that's what she's doing with her daughter.
Exactly. Well, in those final scenes with you and Chalky and Narcisse, we also have the little girl, Althea. And we talked about her because we thought she really, despite the three fantastic adults in the scene, she kind of was very pivotal in the scene where she's sort of in the background. She's kind of there, but she's not there. And she's almost like a ghost. And we were thinking that, almost like a ghost of Chalky's past. That type of thing. What was it like acting with a little girl there with such an intense scene?
It was really challenging to, because, as an actress, you want to play into everything that's given, and you want to do all of the characters justice, including a little one, and you have to be conscious of the fact that, here I am, here's Daughter seeing the love of her life for the first time in years. She's seeing the, kind of devil in her world as well that she hasn't seen in years. She's wondering why she brought all of them here.
Yep.
And how somehow she was almost the reason for all of this to go down. She's listening to the history of what happened to his family, and she's trying to save her little one and trying to figure out, why that actually was an option, come back to to Narcissus and Valentin's office, and it's just so much to think about. And and the little girl, the actress Ryan, she really did such a great job. She was just there and just open to everything that was going on, and honestly, she really helped me. And I think that it's beautiful that one of the lines that Chalky says is, you take care of your mother, baby girl, or something like that. And he calls her baby girl, but that's the first time that he called somebody else baby girl other than his own that was taken away last season. So it's all
exactly. It was reminiscent of Chalky's previous life. Sure.
Right, and it's all very close, and it was a whirlwind. I mean, that day took forever.
Oh, I'm sure it was
really
draining.
Did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really did.
I mean, during this season, especially last season, your role as a singer was front and center, obviously, and your voice is amazing. You know, we all became fans instantly.
Thank you.
And was it tough to learn or adjust your singing style to that 1920s or 30s style? Because it's obviously different than today.
It was definitely a challenge. I've studied jazz in the 30s and 40s, but to change over to the 20s and kind of strip away a lot of the stylizing that I've learned in my jazz training was very hard for me. It's kind of oversimplifying something and imagining like you never learned it in the first place. And I took a lot of time studying that era of music, and I took a lot of time listening to the Josephine Bakers and the Beth Smiths and the Ethel Waters of their time, and those women helped me through all of it. And but it did take some time to try to perfect the style of that voice without overdoing it. There was something so beautiful about the music during that time that it was just so simple that you felt and you knew exactly where they were when they sang it and how they felt, and all of it was completely communicated through something so simple. And it almost sounded so easy, but it's there's something to be said about something that could be or seem so effortless, and it's not.
Yep. Oh, I'm sure.
But it was a really great challenge for me, and I as a singer, and I loved every minute of it.
Is there anything that you would have wanted to see your character do on screen that you didn't get a chance to do?
No. No, not at all. They threw me everything. I did stunts, I danced, it was really, I was beyond thrilled for everything that I was given a chance to do.
Well, as we wrap up here, what do you have coming up next? I mean, can we expect to see you in more TV, more film, or do you have an album coming out, or, what's up next for you?
I'm working on a couple of new music projects as we speak now, and trying to put out a new album coming out very soon. I just wrapped up a TV show on the El Rey Network, which is Robert Rodriguez's new network. And it's more of a CIA-based TV show set in the modern day. I play a logistics analyst for the CIA. It's a totally different look from Boardwalk, and that's very exciting. So we just wrapped that, and we just had the finale of the first season. Got picked up for a second season, so definitely check out the second season. Great. And I just got picked up for a movie with the Sundance director, Joaquin Bazier, who did Muslim with Danny Glover. And we'll be shooting in Detroit come this November.
Wow, fantastic.
So trying to do everything and anything.
Well, and where can people follow you on Twitter for more updates?
You guys can follow me at Margot B. RSVP, MARGOTB like to a party.
Exactly. Great. Well, I really appreciate your time, and thank you for joining us at the Boardwalk Breakdown podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Brendan, and I think it's so cool that you guys came together and put something together so awesome for Boardwalk, and love it so much, and we appreciate it as a cast.
My question is, do you think we'll see her again? She's done in the series, right?
She's done.
There's no reason for her to come back.
She's done. I don't know if you
got to be, right?
I don't know that. Look, it's at this point with 2 episodes left, it serves no purpose.
Right.
I mean, what the purpose that was served were the bullets that were delivered at the end of the episode, right?
But you know what I'm hoping, and not necessarily in Daughter Maitland's case, but in general, I want to see a couple of these characters live on in some sort of spin-off.
Right, yeah. Well, I never even thought about that.
There's
right?
no way that happens, but I totally want to see that.
Well, daughter is definitely not a character with enough depth in this series to warrant that. I mean, I could think of maybe 3 off the top of my head. Mickey Doyle would be one. He would be the equivalent, and I know you didn't watch Breaking Bad, but Better Call Saul.
Yeah. I want the backstory on Mickey Doyle.
Right.
I want to see him from age 15 and on up. He talks about that.
Any of you guys see a pie cooling on a windowsill?
We'll get to him in a second. Yes. All right. So
we have no choice. He's primary.
Oh, well, in my little
and he's
notes
so much
here,
fun.
We talk about this. We cut to early on in the episode after we see Chalky. The second real scene is Mickey Doyle and his bodyguard, or his lackey. Joel. Right?
Yeah. Not Joel Riley.
No. Well, he's a different kind of lackey. He did not serve as well in last week's episode.
No, he did.
So they're at the burlesque club. It's dead. They're bored. It's not the Roaring 20s.
It's midweek.
It's midweek, and they're in the depression. No one's out.
Yeah, no one's out spending money.
Mickey Doyle starts talking to Joel about, when I was your age, I used to do this, I used to do that. And he talks about, my gang, we used to hold up this.
Knock over,
Steal that, hold up this, do whatever. And he goes, I was going places. And then the kid goes, well, what happened? Why are you here, you loser? And then Doyle goes, in a joking way, basically a your mother joke in 1931.
Right.
He goes, what happened? Your father set me up with your mother. Ha, 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 ha. We all thought it's a joke. And the kid's like, wait, what? What are you talking about? He didn't know it was a joke, really. Hence, hinting that he is related to somebody in the series, and we think he is little Tommy Dormady.
A little bit of foreshadowing there, I think.
Right.
I think that's a well-placed comment, and I noted it as well.
I didn't see it last episode. You guys did. I was thinking the kid was somebody else. I think clearly now he is Dormady's kid.
I'm
gotta be,
without a doubt. I think,
it comes back later in the episode.
Right,
we'll talk about that as well.
Right.
I thought for a second maybe the kid was Nucky's kid, because we do get a quick flashback where Nucky's girlfriend, Mabel, is pregnant. And I'm like, maybe that's Nucky's kid. The ages are off. It's not. We cut to Nucky's office in his room in the club, and his bodyguard finds that he's gone. He's not in his room. He escaped somehow. Cut to Nucky in the dive bar. What is going on with Nucky there? Is this him just slumming?
I really don't understand that segment. It was so...
Is he trying to get back to his roots of being incognito, doesn't want attention? Now he's getting back to, I'm of these people. I was these people. I can get back and I can get drunk and I can be anonymous. But he does that I thought it was just an oddly placed scene, an oddly placed storyline within this episode. He's getting drunk, finds this, I'm going to use the word floozy, because I think that's the best description of the girl he's talking to. She's drunk, they're chit-chatting, and it goes nowhere, but Nucky makes up a name that I thought was pretty cool. Francis X. Bookman. That's his alias in this little dive bar.
Right.
Francis X.
Bookman.
From Missouri.
From Missouri.
Yeah. So.
Well, I like how the lady of the evening is calling him.
Do you think she's a hooker, or do you think she's just a...
I think she's a wayward...
opportunistic.
More opportunistic than a whore. But I love the way that she tries to peel him off as... you're a salesman of vacuums from Peoria.
Right, exactly.
And he plays right along with it and doesn't even give two shits. Yeah. He's just more concerned with the end game.
Yeah, exactly. In typical drunk guy at a dive
bar
fashion. All right, then later on, another girl joins them. They're both equally ditzy and drunk and whatever. And then the old man confronts Nucky and tells Nucky to shut up.
Yeah.
And then Nucky basically kicks the shit out of him in this bar. What did you think of that?
I didn't buy it.
Didn't buy it how? That Nucky could do it?
Yeah, that Nucky could do it.
I did because he's the kid from the streets, and he's a quote unquote gangster or half a gangster.
Yeah, he's a half a gangster. He's
I know.
He's only halfway in. I don't look at Nucky as an enforcer in any particular fashion.
But he's an old dude.
And so is Nucky.
Yeah.
Okay, they're both old dudes.
So
the vigor with which he attacks,
right, to me, in his drunken stupor and with all these memories or flashbacks in his own head,
maybe he gets a little super strength from the crazy.
No, well, yes, but he wasn't beating up that old man. He was beating up his dad.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah. Great pull, too.
So, I thought that was interesting, although, again, I didn't think it was needed. It was fine, but
it was too long a segment, and
yeah.
We need to know too much going into the last two episodes.
I know.
I didn't need 20 minutes of drunk Nucky with hookers or with sluts.
That's where I fall down every time. It's the flashbacks, although these flashbacks made some sense.
These flashbacks were extremely relevant this week.
But there's so much going on. These little side stories are fine, but there's so much depth in the big stories, in the Chalky, in the Capone, in the...
I just wonder why, I guess they're weaving a story, right? And they want to give us some longer play. They want to give us some wrap-up. They want to give us it all. And that's the problem with wanting it all or wanting to give it all. Yep. You can't ever do it, right?
And we've talked about this before.
We've talked about they're shoehorning 12
episodes
into 8. Right, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, so it's almost, we're belaboring a point, but...
See previous episodes of this podcast.
Episodes 1, 2, 3, 5. It's disappointing in a way. I mean, they really did need 12 episodes to get this done the right way.
I know.
And I don't know if it was an HBO decision, if it was,
I was reading somebody online on Twitter, a fan of the show, was saying that they thought, and I don't agree, but they thought this was the worst episode, or the worst season of the show, that it was ending horribly. I'm like, well, there's ups and downs, but you can't say it's ending badly.
No, it's not ending horribly. Here's and this goes back to our original problem of, if we had 12 episodes to finish this, I think we could get more of a flavorful plot development.
Yep.
Right now what we're getting is we got to hurry up and finish this.
Yep. All right. So to wrap up the Nucky and the drunken girls storyline, Nucky gets them both into the alley and is going to have sex with both of them. He's going to fuck them both because he's Johnny Drunken Nucky in the
big cock in the block.
he's in the alleyway as he's trying to.
He's the best looking guy in the alley.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As he's trying to grope one of the girls, the other one gets behind him and knocks him out. They knock him out and they rob him. They roll him basically.
Yes.
He comes to, and he's awoken by Joel, what's his face, Doyle's bodyguard.
Right.
Or Doyle's
flunky.
lackey. Yeah, flunky.
Flunky lackey.
Joel Flunky Lackey. He wakes him up, and in Nucky's sort of drunken stupor / waking up out of being knocked out, he starts talking to Joel as if he's Jillian.
Right.
And he says a couple things that are really important. At least one thing that I gathered was, why he kept saying, why did you trust me? Why did you go with me? Were you so trustworthy with me? You knew what I was doing. That type of thing. Basically hinting at Nucky taking this innocent Jillian at 13 years old to the Commodore.
Right.
That was
an interesting...
Creepy.
Yeah, it was creepy and interesting.
So, that brings us to the flashback scenario. The whole storyline with the flashback. Basically, Mabel's pregnant.
Yes.
And she's up in the middle of the night making whatever. She can't sleep. She's got...
one pearl, too.
Yeah, she's got morning sickness or nausea, whatever, brought on by pregnancy. And she's talking to Nucky, and it's almost a throwaway scene, but Nucky recites to her almost verbatim, or probably verbatim, what his speech was that he just gave earlier in the evening to the alderman. And
right.
He sort of displays his oratory skills and his ability to turn a phrase and sort of that he's a guy that can command an audience, which obviously paid off in his career. I thought that was an interesting little thing.
I love how she played off on that, though.
Yeah, and then he's like, everybody kept calling me Nucky, and then she starts busting his balls.
Nucky, Seaguy.
Yeah.
Give me a Seaguy.
So she hates the nickname, obviously, and he hates it, which is great.
Well, what's interesting about that is that he never really sheds it. And I think part of that is embracing what you are viewed as.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of the Nucky personality is really understanding that I am Nucky. It reminds me of a guy that I used to work with. And his name was Paul, and we called him Paulie Walnuts, and it just eventually got shortened to Walnuts. And he hated the nickname. He absolutely hated it. But
that's very Chicago of you.
The reality is that that's your name.
Yeah.
Right? So it doesn't matter whether you like it or not. That's who you are.
And that, not to quote myself from the last podcast, but I will. That plays into my idea of the identity crisis and the people's identity evolving or not last episode. Yeah. Okay, so Mabel's pregnant, and then Nucky makes a comment that, this guy is going to be made alderman or whatever, and he doesn't deserve it, and this guy, but that's what the Commodore wants. I've been working for him for 13 years, and whatever the Commodore wants is what happens. And that's a foreshadowing to his whatever the Commodore wants to bring Jillian to the Commodore. Like he's just gonna acquiesce to whatever.
Serve her up on a silver platter, right?
Which is creepy.
Yeah, totally.
Totally
As a father of a daughter, very creepy.
Definitely. Then we get Nucky on the boardwalk. He goes into a store. The owner talks about a kid stealing stuff, and Nucky vows to find this kid who's been stealing from the boardwalk. And then while he's outside sort of contemplating this, he looks over down the boardwalk and sees the Commodore welcoming in a 12, 13, 11-year-old girl, whatever it is,
creepy,
welcoming her into his hotel while the mom sort of sits outside having brought her daughter to this creepy guy.
Right.
What was going on there? The mom brought the daughter and then sits outside sort of concerned and scared and whatever. Is it just a money deal?
It's got to be a money deal. In my mind, it's a money deal, right? I mean, what's at the root of this entire... what's at the root of the entire series, right? The entire show. It's always about money.
Right. Corruption.
And what did I hear the other night on a completely different show? A racist guy saying, I don't deal with black because he's white. Mm-hmm. And someone else says to him, you don't care about color. The only color you care about is green. Well, first of all, this is something that's played itself out from the Byzantine Empire till now, right? I mean, this is nothing that's any different than anything we've ever seen in any lifetime, is that money rules everything, right? So I think, and I did notice that, and I was taken aback by it, but...
I'm a little surprised, at least in this episode, they didn't play it up a little more. I mean, it was plainly obvious what was happening, but I'm surprised they didn't
They already gave us the money shot with the pictures. They already gave us the money shot. And we already know what's going to happen with Jillian, so they don't have to belabor that too much.
Yeah. And along those lines, the Commodore played, I think, pretty well by, once again, our new friend, John Ellison Conley, who I'll be talking with one-on-one in an interview coming up soon. So listen to that, and we'll get back into the podcast in just a minute. Welcome to the Boardwalk Empire podcast. We're here with John Ellison Conley, who plays young Commodore. How are you doing, John?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Brendan?
Well, good enough. I'm still recovering from last week's episode.
This is terrible, but I actually haven't seen last week.
Oh, come on!
I know, I'm one behind.
Well, I assume you know what happens to you, or your involvement, but beyond that,
I do, but and I have to say, because of because of this season, I'm plugged into all sorts of Twitter things and everything. I also have a pretty good idea about some of the events that may have taken place, but I have not been able to watch it yet. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. But I don't think I'll be surprised by some of the major events.
No, I'm sure. Well, going back to the beginning of this season, or I mean, I'm sure you shot this well before, but how did you get the role of young Commodore? I mean, I assume it was a standard audition, and what was that like? Yeah,
it was an audition, and I had auditioned for the show a couple of times before, once in the first season, and then again, I think in maybe season 3, and this time I came in and I had just finished doing a play where I had a mustache, and I was reading for a role, and Meredith Tucker said, I don't think I've ever seen you with just a mustache before, and she said, did you watch the show? And I said, yes. And she said, well, here's another. I want you to come back tomorrow and read for this part. And she handed me this other part, which was much better, the role of the young Commodore. And obviously I had to keep it very secret because the whole story of going back in time had not been leaked yet. But
sure.
So I came back in. That night I watched some Dabney Coleman stuff, which was, again, pretty easy job, a good job to have. And I went in the next day and did that audition, and then I had to go in one other time for Tim Van Patten and at Steiner at the studios.
Oh, that's great. I always early on in our podcast here, I made a big deal about Tim Van Patten. I know he's an accomplished director now, but I know him as Salami from The White Shadow, so I'm happy to see him out there doing anything. It's great.
Sure, I remember that show. Yeah, he was great on that.
His name was Salami.
He's a phenomenal, absolutely, and he's a wonderful director. I enjoyed his work, for years, and it was a pleasure to get to work with him on this one.
Oh, great. Well, at the beginning of your stint on the show, as you started, how did you approach the character of young Commodore? Was there anything that you had to do, or I mean, did you have to develop that accent? Did you have to try to do a Dabney Coleman impression, or were you just sort of playing to the time period?
Well, it's interesting. But first, for the audition, I had to I prepared in a way that was like, I assume because this character has already been so memorably portrayed, and the people who are watching in season 5 are going to be familiar with the character. I assume that I have to make an attempt to, have some of what Dabney Coleman did. And so as I said, I did look at what he did in the show, and I tried to sort of find the way in which our voices and our mannerisms, if they weren't already similar, the ways in which I could make them similar that didn't prevent me from also being able to, be present, that weren't so foreign that they seemed absurd. And so I did that for the auditions. And then when I actually got hired, of course, as any fan of the show knows, the costumes are so extraordinary, and they build them for you. And so I went and got fitted for all of the clothes that they made for me. That really helps. When you're playing a character who's set in 1884, and they give you a genuine beaver top hat. I mean, that's a crazy thing. But it's all of those things, the clothes that you're wearing affect your posture and affect your idea of yourself in a way that, when you get that information, that's another piece of the puzzle. And then, of course, the scripts show up, and that's the other piece. And you take the information that you get from what you're wearing, and you take the information that you get from the person, in this case, the person who played the character before, which is an unusual thing for me. I'd never done that, but found it really fascinating. And I think Nolan, Lyons, Mark Pickering are doing the same thing, where it's like they got to watch Steve and find ways to make it their own, but also had the responsibility of doing, what he does. And that's an interesting assignment. And then, of course, the third part, and probably the most important, is what's my job in this script, in this scene. And, you put them all together, and you get there, and you work with the guys on the day and figure it all out.
Well, and you mentioned the clothes. Did you happen to
Aren't they amazing?
walk off with, I don't know, a pair of shoes or a hat or something? Tell me you got a souvenir of some sort.
Yeah, I wish that I could have. I didn't. I did not. Because they were so exceptional. And,
Yeah.
and a part of me at the end, as the time was coming to an end, was like, oh, I should, ask it, because they've made it for me. They made it exactly
Sure.
to my, like my one shoulder slightly higher than the other, and all this,
Yeah.
actually to my body. But at the same time, I don't have a lot of occasions where I need an 1884 top coat.
Oh, come on.
So even though that was an extremely beautiful garment, I ultimately decided that I would not investigate that. And, they hung on to all those costumes. I'm sure that some of the guys who were on the show for years were able to keep a suit or something like
Right.
that. But, I did not do that.
Back to your sort of interactions with the other characters. One of the I don't know. I don't know if it's uncomfortable, but it was. It's sort of. It made me uneasy. Was sort of your character's nastiness toward young Nucky. Is that difficult to play against a 12-year-old kid or whatever? I mean, how do you tackle that?
That is tricky, and I have to say, Nolan Lyons, who plays the youngest Nucky, was an absolute. I mean, not only is he a great actor, and that was a real pleasure for me, because I got to see one side of him working with him, because his relationship with the Commodore, of course, is a pretty specific thing, and he's pretty
Right.
contained and pretty quiet and not very expansive, by design. And then when I got to see, the first episode, and all of his stuff with his family, and just I was so thrilled for him, because he's just a really great kid as well as a great actor. But that's the thing that made that part easier. Was he was so easygoing, but incredibly focused. In the episode, where I have to pull him up onto the porch at the hotel there.
Yep.
I was like, how would you like me to do this? And there was a stunt coordinator, and do you want me to make sure that? And he was like, whatever, whatever. That's was
great.
So focused, such concentration, always really dedicated. He was a great kid, and he is a great kid, and super easy to work with.
Well,
and that makes that easier, because of course you don't want to harangue a child, but
no.
I knew that he was completely up for it, and
that's great.
And that was all fine.
And you, your character sort of went down that path a lot, and we we have this thing on the podcast. We say creep of the week, or who is the worst character that given week, and it's oftentimes Jillian, or it's Van Alden, or whatever it is. And the Commodore comes up every now and then. I think the Commodore might be in the running for the most despicable character on the show. What do you think of that?
Well, I can't really talk about
no, of course.
What is to come, but I would say that's not unfair.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the role that the Commodore. I mean, of course, it's the storytelling of the show, and that's definitely what that assignment is,
right.
to a great extent, and I think we love that.
Yep.
We need people that are that way, especially in these kinds of stories, and that's a fun thing to get to play.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, they always say the villain's the most fun. All right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And this is a particular kind of villain, and it's been fun too, because in the first two seasons, the Commodore, you see him, at the end of his life, and I feel like it's all, and I love that performance. It's a beautiful performance, but I do think that part of the assignment of this season was sort of finding a place that was before he became exactly what that was.
Yeah.
And I think ideally by the end of this season, you will see a pretty clear path towards the kind of person that we loved to hate in seasons 1 and 2.
Oh, we can't wait. I mean, 2 episodes left. It's getting dicey. All right.
I know. It's incredible.
Now, you mentioned earlier, one of the keys or the impetuses for you to play the Commodore is the mustache. Now,
yeah,
that's quite a mustache. Did you love it or hate it?
I had it for a play.
Okay.
And usually, but I also had long sort of sideburns and chops and all that stuff. And typically, when I have facial hair, which I've had full beard and done all and been clean shaven, I take my time getting rid of it just because it's a change of pace.
Sure.
And in this situation, I had the mustache, and I was like, I'll stick with this for a little while, and then I'll get rid of that. And it obviously really paid off for me.
That's
so
great.
I've actually stuck with it. And,
good.
My wife. Some people are obviously not such big fans of it, but my wife really likes it. So I'm happy to shade it if someone wants to pay me to play a role that requires me not to have it. But for the moment, I'm still rocking the stash.
That's great. Now, here's the real question: better mustache?
All right.
You, Dabney Coleman, Tom Selleck, or Ron Swanson from Parks and Recreation?
I think you have to take me, and my respect for him is enormous, but you have to take Dabney Coleman out of that.
Yeah.
It's got to be either Tom Selleck, and I would say Magnum era.
Right, of course.
Yeah. Or Nick Offerman.
Yeah.
That's a great,
Nick Offerman.
great stash. Yeah.
Very good. I think that's the right answer.
Yeah. I think so too. Magnum era Selleck is close, but I think we got to go Nick Offerman on that.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm sure the answer is you can't say anything, but is there anything you can tell us about any of the upcoming 2 episodes?
I really can't tell you anything, but also because I only know about my own storyline.
Sure.
I can't wait to see what happens. Actually, yeah. I'm thrilled about it, and look forward. I can't believe. I mean, there's 3 more left for me,
right.
But I can't believe there are only 2 more left.
I know.
That's crazy.
I know. We're
a
little bit sad. I have to admit that, but
Of course.
All good things come to an end.
Yeah, I had the privilege of working just on this season, but all the people who worked on that show, it really became, they were so sad at the end of it. One of the assistant directors was talking to me about the final day when they, loaded the last, because it was shot on film too. That's another thing.
Wow.
A show this large, with this much visual detail shot on film, it might, that was the end of potentially really the end of an era.
Right. Wow.
But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The good thing is it'll exist forever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, what do you have coming up? Whether it's TV, film, Broadway, whatever. Where can people see you next?
I have a couple of things going on around here, and I'm looking sort of for my next theater or TV job.
Okay.
I have a film coming up that I'm not sure exactly when it's coming out. Robert Edwards' film that Chris Walken and Hamish Linklater and Amber Heard are in, called "When I Live My Life Over Again."
Oh, great!
That I shot in the late spring, and I'm I'm looking for what's going to be next.
Great. Well, that's fantastic. And
Yeah.
Where can people follow you on Twitter if they wanted to get updates for you and what you're doing in the not so distant future?
I am at Conjohnlee, ConJohnlee, at Conjohnlee on Twitter.
That's great. Well, I really appreciate your time. John, it's been a pleasure. So thank you for joining us at the Boardwalk Breakdown podcast. And we look forward to watching you and young Commodore these last 2 episodes.
Thanks, Brendan. It was really a pleasure joining you, and I'm so glad that you guys are watching it. I think it's great that the show has and deserves such devoted fans.
Yeah, we are super fans, so we can't wait. We can't get enough. So, all right. So then we cut to, in this scenario, we cut to Nucky and Eli underneath the boardwalk, setting a trap for this kid who's been stealing stuff. This little boy.
This boy.
I'm sure, who's been stealing stuff from the boardwalk and stashing it in some sort of little alcove under the boardwalk.
Under the beach.
We find out pretty quickly it's not a boy, it's a girl, and her name is
Jillian.
So that's our introduction.
Okay. You know what? This was probably the most pivotal scene in this.
Yeah.
Maybe not the most pivotal, but really it's going to help really outline the arc of the Jillian story. And
it's teeing up the next episode to be heavily Jillian.
Totally. Next episode, while Jillian is not my favorite character and not someone that I find compelling, it's going to be dominated by Jillian. And rightfully so. She has a strong place in the history of the series. Yeah. And it's important that we come to a conclusion with her, so I understand it completely.
Definitely.
I love the fact that she's a petty thief dressed as a boy working the boardwalk for scams. I thought that was interesting. Right? Yeah. I mean, it lays the groundwork for. I think all along in the entire arc of the series that we've been trying to find a reason to find Jillian compelling.
Yeah,
but we're not going to get it
up until now. Save the Commodore. She's the most despicable character in the entire series,
without question. And I don't think they're going to waver from that. Right. I thought for a while that they might make her this forgivable character. They're not gonna. It's not gonna happen. Yep. She's gonna wind up being the scapegoat, for lack of a better word, because I can't think of one. She's gonna be the mess that fits.
Well, and when we first learned of this relationship that she had with Nucky and the Commodore, back a few seasons ago, I figured the entire time the way we would find out is that the Commodore is giving some speech or being, this above-it-all guy, when behind the scenes he's telling his lackey, Nucky, hey, look at that girl in the crowd. Let's make sure you bring her back to my, hotel or whatever. Almost like an 80s hair band. Like, see the blonde girl, bring her back and let's... Not at all. That's what we see kind of with the mom bringing the girl that Nucky sees on the block, whatever.
Right.
I thought that might be closer to the scenario. Totally different.
Totally.
Jillian's got her own little
She's got her own thing going on. Yeah. I mean, it's not we're going to reel this poor young...
She's not a helpless
girl
nothing,
and we're going to deliver the Commodore on a platter.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I think it was a very interesting turn that I didn't see coming, but I love it. I mean, it makes me more interested in Jillian's story.
It makes me more interested in Jillian's story, and in going back a couple of episodes of the podcast, I was really done with Jillian.
Yeah.
So, this definitely reeled me back in a little bit.
Now we get into maybe the meat of the episode. Certainly where the most action, conflict, drama happens. And
Nelson Van Alden.
That's with Eli and Nelson Van Alden.
Nelson Van Mueller, as he was quoted as being on...
Yeah, that's Nelson Caspar Van Alden, he says later on.
Yes.
I'm going to call him Casper.
Casper. We can go with Casper.
Okay, so we see Eli and Van Alden about to try to get into Capone's lair and somehow steal these ledger books that tie him to tax fraud and tax evasion. And here's where I can make one of my comparisons that I haven't made in a couple episodes yet. So they're in the hallway talking about how to do it. They walk up to the door to Capone's lair. And before they go in, before they grab the knob, they go, whoa, hang on. Let's walk through this. They start talking back and forth about, all right, you go in there and do this. What about the...
Abbott and Costello.
Well, hang on. They do that, and then they're talking about, you go in there with the counting room, and I'll talk to so-and-so, and what if we're caught, and then we do this. They're working through it all. Almost inches from the door made me think of the scene in Pulp Fiction, where they're about...
Here's our tie.
Right. They're about to go in and... Wait, hang back. It's not time yet. And they're talking about foot massages.
Foot massages, yeah.
You know?
Royale with cheese.
I'm thinking that's Pulp Fiction right there. So
great tie.
There's my little tie.
Perfect tie.
Anyways, they get inside. They try to... there's more people there than expected. They try to make some bullshit story about having to drop off money and... we were late last time. We want to make sure it's there. We've got to get it counted and whatever. Doesn't really fly. It almost is about to, and then Ralph Capone walks in.
And the shit hits the fan.
And he's like, fuck that. I'll take it. I'll take it to the accounting room. And they're freaking out. He grabs it and then looks inside of it. The worst thing ever. I mean, if you kept it closed and just put it on the desk, this might work out.
All good, right.
He looks inside and it's filled with shredded paper. Eli and Van Alden shit themselves because they're completely caught. They have nowhere to go from that.
And we're back to Abbott and Costello.
And it's Abbott and Costello. And it's this fantastic little love story of Eli and Nelson.
Yeah.
Which I love. They're the best.
It truly is a love story.
Sadly, we can't see a spin-off of these two, but I think they would be fantastic.
This might be the spin-off, if we could have one, would be the Nelson and Eli show, although Nelson obviously isn't capable.
He's not quite in great shape.
He's not in great shape.
Okay, so to cover this gap of having scraps of paper, and what are you doing? What is this? There's no money here. What's happening? Eli says... we were gonna rob the place? Question mark. Eli is a fucking mess.
I love the fact that he came right out with it, though. He didn't try and fucking bullshit.
He made it up as the words were coming out of his mouth. He's like, we were gonna
rob the place?
And he kind of looks at Van Alden like, maybe, sure. So
maybe they respect us for trying to rob it.
Exactly. Maybe they can get some credit for it. So they're caught, and they totally fucking panic. Then they Ralph calls in D'Angelo as the guy to dispose of these two. I didn't quite get that. There was 2 or 3 other guys in the room. Why didn't they take one of those guys?
Ralph isn't Ralph Capone's brother.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe they just want...
But D'Angelo was not part of the inner circle in any way. He was sort of on the fringe. I thought it was weird that they grabbed him.
Well, the backstory on this that's great is that when Capone does walk in, he walks in with 2 actors who wind up starring in the movie Scarface.
Right.
Which was from 1932 or 3.
2 guys from Hollywood trying to make a film about Capone.
Who are going to make a film about Capone and are probably thinking, all of this is probably, a lot of spun yarn, right? I mean, this is... Yeah, some of it's true, but some of it's probably not real.
You're a blowhard, and do you really live this life? I mean,
this whole Al Capone thing is probably overblown. Well, they find out quickly it isn't.
Because in the public, I mean, he was a master PR man. He was out talking to the
gregarious,
to the press
outgoing,
He was promoting himself as a man of the people,
right.
Not the bad guy that people thought.
Right.
Anyway, so when Capone comes in with the Hollywood guys... D'Angelo and Van Alden and Eli are on their way out, almost out of this bad situation where they can regroup and try this thing again, or at least survive. Capone nails it. It says, "Get back in here. Where are you guys going? Let's talk about this."
We're gonna have a chat.
Yeah. Now Capone talking to our favorite cigar store Indian, Nelson Van Alden. He goes, I thought we were buddies. I thought that was hilarious. Like, we're buddies. Like,
yeah.
Who's buddies with Capone?
Nobody.
No one.
Right.
Least of all, Van Alden. And then he puts a gun to Van Alden's head. I think you're a fucking badge, he says. He's got him pegged. He knows what's up. And then...
But he doesn't.
He doesn't. He
doesn't
know
the whole thing. He doesn't know it, but he doesn't have him pegged.
Right. Then, this is the part that shocked me. Because I thought for sure Van Alden, as he has for the past 7 years, would just put his tail between his legs and just be Mueller and just like, okay, well, I'm sorry, boss, and this and that, whatever. He knocks the gun out of Capone's hand. He jumps up, starts choking him, says, tells him exactly who he is, and he's an agent, and he's
treasure
under
agent.
arrest. Right. And he talks about his faith, and all kinds. He exposes his entire self to.
I loved how he regurgitated the God speak in there.
Right.
Too. He was like,
he
will be
back
judged by God, and
I thought for sure they were going to throw down the Pulp Fiction, the righteous man.
You will know I am the Lord.
Will rain down upon thee. And he goes, I am Nelson Caspar Van Alden. And then, right after that, his head is effectively blown off.
Yeah.
By a gun from D'Angelo, the other Fed.
D'Angelo, well placed, and really not necessarily shocking, but it took me by surprise that's how that kind of ended.
I thought Eli might step up.
I thought, and that's really where I was going with it, is I thought it was going to be Eli who would step into the fray and try and quell the situation.
Eli's in. Okay, so D'Angelo shoots off half of Van Alden's face. He's done. Blood everywhere, all over Capone. Saved Capone's life.
Freaking out.
Eli's in shock, muttering to himself. Kind of, sort of giving himself and Eli and D'Angelo up.
Totally.
He's like, you can't quite hear what he's saying, but he's basically just spilling the beans.
He's muttering, yeah.
Capone goes to him, and he's talking to him. He's like, you're caught. Just tell me what happened. What was going on? This is over. What was going on? And Eli, showing the last bit of a quick mind, still in that just drunken brain he has, spills his guts. But he doesn't say he doesn't say
D'Angelo.
He says it was a Fed. Doesn't say D'Angelo. He says it was Ness. Perfect. Sets up Capone against Ness.
Tease up the next 2 episodes, right?
Amazing.
To finalize this.
Because for 3 episodes, I think we were all sitting like, all right, we saw Ness in the first one or second one. Where is he?
When's he coming back? Right.
He's Capone's arch enemy.
One of the things that I love about this, though, is that the Ness-Capone scenario has been so played out, right? That
it's secondary.
I like
now.
that they make it a little secondary. Yeah. It's not necessarily Ness Capone. It's more about the backstory behind that, and that's been a good play. I think they've done that well.
I'm waiting for Costner to make a
guest appearance.
Make a guest appearance somewhere, and
I'm taking a bookkeeper, and the bookkeeper is coming with me.
All of a sudden, next episode, it's Costner against De Niro.
Yeah,
I don't know what happened, but
firing away in Union Station.
the baby buggy going down the stairs.
Buggy, yeah.
All right, Capone. We finish off this little scenario here, this storyline with Capone saying, "We was bums, Ralphie." Very
bums.
good Capone line. "We was bums." Almost a Burgess Meredith Rocky line.
Very quintessential.
And then Ralph goes, well, what do we tell his brother? Meaning Eli's brother.
This was my favorite moment of the episode.
And then Capone goes, Luciano's taking care of him. And he walks out into the other room, to the ante-room.
So proving all along.
Capone was in on it.
Capone was in.
Was in on the assassination on Nucky, or the attempt on Nucky.
Yeah. So this sets up a huge play for the next couple of episodes.
Well, and a little thing I didn't see coming. I thought it was kind of cool. I was impressed by this more than I probably should have been. At the end of this little scene, Ralphie grabs D'Angelo, Ralphie Capone, and hands him the briefcase with the ledgers in it, saying that, Al was impressed with what you did there. You saved his life. Here you go. Take these to Cicero. We got to, lay low now. Giving D'Angelo everything he wanted.
Yeah.
Even though Van Alden had to die for it, but it was interesting. And then on the way out, he lets Eli go. Like, here's $50, go get a train, get out of here. It's all
Right. And what I love about it is where does Eli go?
I know.
Does he go
that's
back
the
to
question.
AC? Does he ditch completely?
Can he go back to Nucky? I don't know. Does he even make an appearance anymore? He might be done.
He might
for
be
the
done.
series.
Yeah, I mean, and here's where it gets really interesting is just that, right? We're down to the bitter wire here. We've got to finish up things with Jillian. We've got to finish up things with Margaret. We've got to finish up things with Nucky. We've got to finish up things with Capone.
Yep.
Is there room for Eli? I mean, we've already sewn up our Rothstein. Oh, we have to finish up Luciano.
Right.
We have a number of things that need to be done before this can
I know. Well, and I'm wondering if Eli plays the prodigal son coming back to Nucky, and then they stand together against Luciano.
It wouldn't shock me if that
a
happened, but I'm
it's a
telling
little
you,
corny, though.
it's corny, and they've already thrown us for a loop with the Chalky thing,
Yeah.
right? So the Chalky thing, we were all hell-bent on Chalky and Nucky riding off into the sunset together, and they fucking quickly put a bullet in that head.
Yep.
So I'm not going to make any predictions on that.
So we've got 2 episodes left.
Right.
I believe Jillian is maybe, if not the central character, one of the main storylines in the very next episode. It has to be. You got to get Jillian going.
They've got to kickstart that.
The other one, I think, Margaret. We got to see what's going on with Margaret, I think. Or maybe they hold her till the finale.
I think they hold her till the finale. And I think there might be some kind of closure with her and Nucky.
Yeah.
That is positive. I think that might be one way that they end this.
Yep.
That's, purely conjecture.
I think it has to be positive, I think.
Does it?
With those 2,
Has
I
anything
think so.
been positive in any closure in this series?
No, but I think they have come back together, and they're the only positive thing in this series left. So maybe that'll continue for the last couple episodes. But, okay, so we've got Jillian. Has to happen next episode. We know from some of the previews, I think, Maranzano and Luciano and that whole thing, something goes on.
Well, that's
there.
got to come to a head in the next episode. It's got to be... The last episode needs to be a real dramatic, kind of a... Not dramatic. That's a bad word to use. It has to be completely wrap-up fulfilling. We're not doing a Sopranos on this, right? This isn't going to be a guy walks in and we fade to black.
Not even.
This has got to have some kind of a closure.
You can
point.
see where it's headed. It's just a matter of how they do it.
Right.
So we know it's Lucky Luciano and Maranzano / Nucky. That's something's happening there next 2 episodes. Let's say. We've got Jillian. The other one it's going to play a major role, and I think it's going to be the last thing we see in I'm going to say the final scene of the entire series, maybe, or maybe the second to last one, will be a flashback.
The entire episode?
We got to see the Commodore and Nucky. I think the flashback's going to be a bigger player in these next 2 episodes.
I can see the flashback being a big player, but it cannot be the whole episode.
No, not the whole episode. I think
it can be. It
might end it.
Right.
It might be the bow on the series.
Well, I could see the ending of this series being a flashback.
That's what I'm thinking.
And it's going to kind of neatly wrap it up, but maybe leave us asking some questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could see that happening. I could totally see that happening. Good stuff.
Definitely. All right. Next week, we tackle the penultimate episode of the entire series of Boardwalk Empire with as far as we know, a full cast. You, me, and Michelle.
Maybe a guest.
Maybe a guest next week. I'll see what we can wrap up for next week. And then 2 weeks from now, we will have the finale episode, which I hope to have a full house for that. Both of us, plus Michelle, plus Allison, and then
Tim.
who knows who else.
Who else?
Tim,
Maybe get a couple
right?
others. Right.
So there's we'll have 5 or more for the finale. So
Yes.
that one, if you're gonna miss one, don't miss the last one of our episodes.
No, it'll be good.
It'll be good. Till next time.
Cheers.
Sláinte.
Salud to my Italian friends.
Thank you for listening to Boardwalk Breakdown, and follow us on Twitter at Boardwalk Break.